I'm going to play two different Tea and Biscuit tracks, one for radio edit, one for YouTube, just because there's about 10 swears.
10 swears.
In Lemons and Lemonade. So.
They're appalling, potty mouths.
This is Sheer Isolation. It's presented by Kieran Moore in Trowbridge and Jon Ponting in Cricklade.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Sheer Isolation. I am Jon in Cricklade, and my friend Kieran is over there in Trowbridge. Hello, Kieran.
Hello, Jon. How are you?
Yes, I'm not doing too badly, thank you. Last week I had a bit of bruising because I've had a bit of an op. That's all clearing up nicely.
Nice. I'm on these steroids and they've worked an absolute treat, and I can now smell and everything. So I'm delighted. So I'm just going to stay on the steroids, I think.
Stay on the steroids. Advice for everybody.
Stay in school, kids, and stay on the steroids.
So the purpose of this show is to promote the local music scene. Kieran, you've had a very busy week. One thing I picked up that you've been doing in particular, I don't know if you want to talk about, is the Glastonbury Library.
That came kind of out of the blue. A friend of mine, Sam, who was originally, I met him from Swindon. He was part of the Swindon scene back in sort of the early 2000s. Really, really super guy. He got a job in Bristol working for the British Library. And they themselves have a project where they have access to all the demos submitted to Glastonbury Rising. And that period was bang on my very early days of Sheer, when we were working with all the local musicians from Devizes and Wiltshire in general. So there was a huge Venn diagram overlap over the people from my local community and scene and so on that were submitting demos to Glastonbury to perform at Glastonbury. So they sent me through the spreadsheet saying, Kieran, do you know any of these people, or can you identify members from these bands? And the spreadsheet had 4,500 acts on it. What's fascinating, Jon, is whilst I knew a substantial amount of them, there is music and demos submitted to Glastonbury from the likes of James Blunt, from Adele, from Scouting for Girls, Nine Black Alps, This Town Needs Guns, loads and loads of household established name acts. And we've got their demos, their original demos. So I've been listening to the TTNG, as they're now called, This Town Needs Guns, original demos. This preceded their first album. It's absolutely amazing. It's so incredible to be able to have access to this material. It's amazing.
We have got a guest, as always, this week on Sheer Isolation. We have been joined by Tom Mallard, who is part of the team at the Riverbank Studios in Chippenham, which kind of is a bit of a reach-out centre, getting youngsters and disadvantaged kids kind of into music and give them a space to record and mingle and form bands together. So he's doing great work down there.
He is. He really is the man in Chippenham. If you need a show or you need to know anything about Chippenham's live music scene or art scene, he's the man to contact. He will tell you or point you in the right direction.
My turn to pick a track this week because Kieran is just too damn busy with his Glastonbury Library to worry about this little show.
How can you say such a thing?
Anyway, what I've done is picked a track from a band called Riverbank. Now, Riverbank are Bristol-based. They're kind of part of the pop rock synthy. There's quite a lot of bands in Bristol who kind of follow that trend. They've been around for quite a few years, but they've got a new EP coming out. They've announced that in July they got a new EP coming out, and then they're going to be doing some gigs in August. One of them being the Louisiana in Bristol. We haven't got this new track yet, so I picked what their lockdown video and their lockdown track, because every band made a lockdown video with a lockdown track. And this one's called Get Out Alive. What I like about this, Kieran, you know that Feeder song where they got a compilation of all their fans to kind of sing along, do a little karaoke?
Yes.
What the track was. But yeah, so Riverbank have done exactly the same. So it's an absolute gem of a video to watch, and it's a really great track. This is from last year. The band's called Riverbank, and the track is Get Out Alive.
I mean it, if you want to get out alive, stuck in the system, I'm the resistance, fight for your life, sitting at the end of a knife, in the night they're coming for you, they've got it for you. Did it ever get through? There was no intervention. They mentioned this, you're falling to bits. Everything that's hiding underground, you know soon it will be found. And there's beauty in this feast, chewing on their meat. It was a perfect day, a perfect view, but only for you. Hurry quick, take my hand, stay close, understand. Keep focused, I can't look straight. It's alright, it's okay. I mean it, if you want to get out alive, get thought I'd end up like this, living my nightmares, sweating out my dreams. I thought I'd be on TV, I thought I'd be in the movies. Now you don't look at me or tell me why you don't look at me. Cover all the windows up, no eyes on us is what we want. Count 10 seconds, begin to run, hurry up, begin to run. Keep focused, I can't look straight. It's alright, it's okay. Hurry quick, take my hand, stay close so you understand. I mean it, if you want to get out alive, get ahead. Take my hand, leave behind. Get out alive, get ahead. I mean it, if you want to get out alive, get ahead. Take my hand, leave behind. Get out alive, get ahead. All the damage that we do, all the damage that's been done. No, it don't change us, it don't change who we've become. And all the damage that we do, all the damage that's been done. No, it don't change us, it don't change who we've become. I mean it, if you want to get out alive, get ahead. Take my hand, leave behind. Get out alive, get ahead. I mean it, if you want to get out alive, get ahead. Take my hand, leave behind. Get out alive, get ahead. Get out alive, get ahead. Get out alive. I mean it, if you want to get out alive.
Now, John, tell me, did they get out alive?
I would like to think so because they've got a new EP coming out.
That's pretty conclusive, isn't it?
Okay, that was Get Out Alive by Rozelle. Kieran, do you have any product placement this week?
There you go. John, I have the elusive Sewer. Yay,
We've been
turn
talking
up.
about this for a few weeks.
We have, and been waiting for it. In fact, the front cover is a record that's been smashed. Who would do such a thing, John? Who would do such a thing? I don't know, is the answer. But if you wanted to pick up yourself some cheap vinyl, some cheap female vocal, sort of grungy pop rock, I think they're like shifting the last of their stocks on Bandcamp really cheap. I think it's a £5, so just go and grab it and support a local band.
I know we've talked about Sewer before, but do you want to give a little bit of a snapshot for people who are joining us for the first time?
Yeah, Bristol-based three-piece, 2 girls and a guy. I think the guy's the drummer, and then you've got the 2 front women, and they're absolutely fantastic singers and musicians. And it's real kind of grungy pop rock, really good, really kind of edgy and fun. I do believe they've kind of split up now, and they're forming new acts. They kind of took Sewer as far as they could get, and now they're moving into new areas.
We should probably play one of their tracks. We talked about them a lot, but we haven't played anything of theirs, so we should probably sort that out.
Let's play one next week.
All right. We will forget by next week, but there we go. Time for our interview then. So this week we are joined by Tom Mallard from Riverbank in Chippenham.
He is the equivalent of me, really, but in Chippenham. So he does an awful lot of youth-orientated work. He also does occasionally does promotions. He runs the Battle of the Bands in Chippenham. And generally speaking, he's just a really positive member of the Chippenham community, and someone that you should be looking out for if you ever need to get into Chippenham. You want to be chatting to Tom. We've invited you onto the podcast today to talk because you are the brain and drive behind the Chippenham Riverbank Studios. Mm-hmm. So Anybody who's listening who doesn't know Chippenham's Riverbank Studios, do you want to give us a brief outline of who you are, what you do, how long you've been going, that kind of thing, and we'll dig into it a bit in a second.
Yeah, sure. So I started there when it was part of the Wiltshire Council Youth Service, and it was sort of like they had a music offer, so there's a couple of rehearsal rooms and they had recording equipment. So I started volunteering there after I finished uni. I'd been going to it when it was at the Bush Centre anyway, so I was familiar with it. I was like, okay, we need to be putting on gigs, we need to get more people involved, built it up quite a bit. They cut all the funding to the youth service, so me and Guy, Guy.
For the guys who you do the Riverbank with, isn't it?
Yeah, really talented recording engineer, producer. Anyway, we took that on as a non-profit. That was back in 2014, I think. Was it that long ago? Yeah, wow. 7
years, sounds about right.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that long. Yeah, and just kind of built it from there, really. So we do rehearsal spaces, recording. It's like the core of it, I suppose. And it's all for young people. And
I'm about to say, it's specifically aimed at young people, isn't it? Teenagers.
Yeah, it's just making their life easier, really. Like, give them a place to do it. Because I know when I was that age, we would have we'd have killed for something like that. We just didn't have the space to create and things like that. And within that, we give them as many opportunities as we can. So we do like industry day events where we'll get a panel of like people involved in the music industry come in and answer questions and talk about their careers. We did a youth cafe for a long time before COVID stopped everything. Yeah, putting on gigs as well. We do our Battle of the Bands every year.
That's called Take the Stage.
And that sort of links out sort of outside of our little bubble, really, and gets people talking to people who run festivals and have record labels outside of Chippenham.
So, well, since you mentioned it, we might as well dig down into COVID, because obviously that put a stop to things. And at roughly the same time, you lost your premises, didn't you?
Yeah, so that was like February. So just before the lockdown stuff came in, I was working a lot harder then to keep it going in alternative venues and try and keep the core of it going. Then the lockdown hit and it all had to stop, which was quite a nice break, to be honest, because it was a lot more tiring having to take a car full of equipment out for like every session that we did and unload it, pack it up at the end of the day.
But you found a home. But you found a home.
Sort of, yeah, temporarily. So back in September, I started working with Can Do Arts, who similar to it, it's more sort of targeted, so it's more sort of focused on at-risk children and people who are excluded for various reasons, things like that. But they all do their work through the arts and film and media and that sort of thing. And they've got a shop in Emerygate. It used to be Dorothy Perkins, and it was sitting there empty. Yeah, so they're like, "Oh, do you want to just do something in here?" So we've opened it as like a community space, and we got an art gallery in there, like mental health talks, that sort of thing. So sort of workshops going on too. And down in the basement, I've set up a rehearsal and recording space for Riverbank.
Can you just explain the concept and kind of the ethos behind Riverbank? What was it actually set up for? What's its main ambition compared to other music-based groups around?
Yeah, so it's accessibility, I suppose. So it's for young people. We keep the cost as low as we can. At the moment in the shop, it's free. Back when we were at the Olympiad, we had to charge a little bit, but mostly it's sort of funded.
Is it a studio that kids can just come along and record stuff, or is there any teaching involved as well?
Yeah, we do a bit of tuition. That's just sort of a way of making money for it, really. I used to run this project called School of Rock, where we'd get kids sort of who were struggling to find bands, would come in and get them making music together, sort of getting them out of their bedroom, and getting them out of the house and getting them playing with actual other musicians. And that was like, as far as like making things pay went, because we could charge for that, and then the money that made then funded the rehearsal spaces and the recording time. So all of that was free, and the youth cafe, which was free, which, yeah, it was a good model while it was there.
While it lasted.
I don't think I can kind of run it in the space that we have at the shop just because of the size of it.
What's your next plans? Because obviously you were due to do a Battle of the Bands last year. That kind of, you got through the heats. We did these gigs, and then you weren't able to do the final. And now we had on a few months back who basically gave you a platform to allow those bands that were due to play the final play at Minety Fest.
Rich from Minety has been really supportive. So one of the prizes anyway was a main stage slot at the festival. He phoned me up a couple of months ago and said, well, like, I've sort of moved things around and I could probably fit all 4 bands on. So I was like, yes, definitely, we'll do that. I still don't know. Yeah, part of me is like, I don't know if that's replacing the final or if it's just like a nice thing, because there's no sort of winner in that, I guess. Well, everyone's
a winner in that, Tom.
Yeah.
They get to play a festival. So what's next for you? What's your dream? How would you presumably you want to raise Riverbank back to where it was fundamentally and its position within the community?
Yeah, and having the space at the shop in Emerygate has been a bit of a lifeline in that. It's still really difficult to plan ahead. It's still really difficult, especially
we don't
and like we don't know. It could be 2 weeks, and they go, "Oh, you got to get out of that building." It could go on another 6 months. We don't know.
Of course.
At the moment, we're just kind of riding that chaotic wave through it all and seeing where it goes.
So, am I right in thinking that you're a drum teacher as well, Tom?
Yeah, I teach drums. Yeah.
Are you doing that remotely at the moment over Zoom?
Oh no, I'm back in person. Yeah, God, it's so difficult doing it online. It's one of those things. If there's like a tiny bit of delay for drumming, it's so limited on what you can do then.
Sure.
And a lot of the way I teach is quite sort of communicative, I suppose. Or I got 2 drum kits, and a lot of it's like, well, let's try it together, we'll play together, or I'll pick up the bass or guitar and play with them. And it's like all of that's gone when you're doing it online.
Of course. Tom, do you think you could even teach someone like me to play drums?
Anyone can play drums, man. It's just hitting stuff. It's the hitting them in time that I find is the problem. I can definitely hit them.
That's fine, Kieran. You can just go into jazz. You can be a jazz drummer. What do you think of the music scene in Chippenham? Because you've got a couple of pub venues, but there's no proper kind of main music venue focus in Chippenham. So how does that kind of reflect to the people who actually live in Chippenham? What do you do there for music?
So I think it's pretty good actually for the size of the town and its kind of place. It could be bigger, it could be better, like it always could, I think. There are a lot of people here who love going to see gigs and they love live music, and there are a lot of musicians around here. We're really close to, we're close to Bristol and we're close to Swindon, who do have good, like, big scenes, especially Bristol.
Of course.
So for a lot of people here, it's easy enough to call Bristol your hometown and get on the train, or it's like a half-hour drive to get to the venue,
Yeah, of course.
One of the good things with Chippenham, it's got good transport links, isn't it? Right next to the motorway, and you've got the train station there as well. It's kind of saying the best thing to do in Chippenham is go out of Chippenham to a gig.
This is it. We're trying to change that, John. We're trying to say visit Chippenham.
Yeah.
Come to Chippenham.
Yeah. So I think, Kieran, especially, you're doing great at it. Is sort of, we are trying to get a bit of a homegrown scene, and it will never be. I don't think it'll ever be a huge town to come to, because we don't have a venue that's sort of suitable for that kind of thing. And we got the Nilled, which is big but expensive and a bit kind of posh. Like you wouldn't get like a rock band, like an up and coming band in there and have it pay for itself, really.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
And we have the Old Road, which is kind of the opposite. It's like a really cool place to play, but it's so small. Like if you got anyone,
tiny.
Yeah, anyone who with a bit of a name to them, it's going to sell out like instantly. Like,
Tom, we've not really touched on your own music, your bands, your own projects. We need to cover those really quickly as well. Tell us what's happening in your life aside from Riverbank.
Yeah, my band's called Hogs Bison. We're on Bandcamp and the other things, I guess. We're on the socials too, but like none of us use it. I'm not really into social media. We're really bad on it. But yeah, what's actually going on with that? I haven't been, because we practice in Bristol, I haven't been to see them in like 4 months.
Really?
Not since the big lockdown in January, whatever it was. Yeah, partly because my car failed its MOT back in November. So
I feel for you.
Getting to Bristol is difficult, and like buying a car during a pandemic is difficult.
Yes.
So,
but it's 3-piece, aren't you? It's guitar, drums, bass.
we have a synth player now.
Way 4-piece.
Yeah. I've been sitting on some demos for like a year and a half. We're thinking of putting them out, but
I think you should, Tom. I think you should.
Yeah,
It sounds like you need someone in your band just to do marketing, does it? It sounds like none of you can do it or want to do it.
Pretty much, yeah. We're all useless with like online stuff and tech.
Cool. Right, Tom, thank you ever so much for coming on the podcast.
We need to plug the Riverbank. So if anyone wants to find out more information, where do they go? How do they find you?
Facebook, Instagram, Riverbank Chippenham, I think, on both.
It's so refreshing to talk to someone who doesn't care about social media. It's lovely. I wish I could be like that.
Stopping caring about that was such a big improvement on my mental health. Yeah, and my well-being.
That's amazing to hear. No, you don't. It's incredibly refreshing to hear. But basically, the moral of the story is search Riverbank Chippenham, you'll find you.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, it's that time of the podcast where we invite the guest to pick a track. You've picked the track for us this week. Tell us who it is and why you've picked them.
Yep, my good friends, James Parsons and Ned, I've forgotten his surname. They are tea.
I'm like that all the time.
They are Tea and Biscuits. So James played at one of my first ever gigs I put on at Riverbank, actually. He's a good Riverbank story. He's like, that gig meant so much to me, man. It kind of gave me a lot of confidence to go on and do more gigs. Anyway, Bath College, he's putting out lots of music. So,
fantastic.
I thought I'd pick him, seemed fitting.
And it's a track called Lemons and Lemonade.
Way back when I was a boy, life was simpler, just running round, forever making noise, without an ounce of care to spare. A few years passed, the urban shrank, and I became aware. When life gives you lemons, make a lemonade. When life gives you shit, make a shit sandwich, give that shit away. It's just a momentary blip in our forever changing lives. The more we play at the living is how we end up old and wise. For everything is all a lesson, even forgetting a sock when dressing or doing up your flights. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. When life gives you shit, make a shit sandwich, give that shit away. Riding on my mind with a ball and chain. Sometimes all I wish for is to turn off my brain, just for a bit to get a rest from it all, like a mini vacation in an empty hole. I don't live for you as your son, 'cause I don't give a fuck anymore. Life gives you lemons, make lemonade. gives you lemons, make a lemonade. When life gives you shit, make a shit sandwich and give that shit away.
Okay, so that is Lemons and Lemonade by a band Tea and Biscuits, which is a Chippenham-based group that's come out of the work that Tom's been doing over there. So.
And they're mighty fine indeed. I'm surprised actually how long they've been going. I thought they were a much more recent band. They've been around for quite some time. So they weren't on my off my radar, but certainly I hadn't given them a show yet. So over this way. So something I'll have to rectify at some point in the future.
Right, let's do some news. You had your Glastonbury rant last week, which meant we didn't get time to talk about Download, which was some very exciting news. So yeah, Download is brilliant. So Download have taken the leaf out of 2000 Trees' book, and they've done an all UK lineup, kind of a festival pilot thing, isn't it? But all UK lineup, absolutely sensational. And for me, this is one of the many things that COVID has done is it's changed the way that we work and challenged us into finding new ways of working. And what Download have effectively done is they've identified future headliners of festivals like Download, bands that are going to keep going and keep progressing, like Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes, who are now headlining Download on the first day. This is brilliant champion of British music, and obviously test pilot. It's absolutely fantastic for us to be actually considering doing these events. So I am delighted. It's funny, you mentioned taking a leaf out of 2000 Trees book, but in more recent years, 2000 Trees have gone the other way. They've gone with more international acts, and obviously from speaking to Andy earlier in the year, we said, George fancied doing a UK only lineup, and he was very coy about that. And obviously Trees isn't going ahead this year. But it's the whole attitude to having UK based acts. Trees just kept developing. Download were always an international festival, but they've kind of reverted, whereas Trees grew to being an international festival. But fundamentally, it was 2000 Trees that kind of originally led with the British lineups, and Download have somewhat followed suit. And I am really, really delighted about that. Yeah. So Download is taking place with a 10,000 capacity in middle of June, 18th to 20th of June. What a lineup. So the headliners are Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes, Enter Shikari and Bullet for My Valentine, Boston Manor, Frank Turner and the Sleeping Souls, Skindreds, the Wild Hearts, Trash Boat, Massive Wagons, Jamie Lemon, Vicovi, A While She Sleeps, Creeper, Twin Atlantic, Lotus Eater. I mean, there's loads of bands there that have played for me. I'm so absolutely proud to be able to associate myself with half of those acts. It's just incredible. What a lineup. Sounds like someone's looking for a VIP pass there. No, I'm not. I'm sorry, too busy, I'm afraid, John. It's what you were put on this earth to do, Kieran. It is. And we're knocking it out of the park. Don't forget, you can get in touch with us, sheerisolation@gmail.com, or you can follow us on various social streaming services. Kieran, thank you for joining me. I will let you... Always a pleasure, never a chore. Crack on with the rest of your day. Hey, take care, buddy. All right, see you later. All right, bye. Bye.